Welcome in. This is Chiefs Chase. My name is Mike Bassano, and thank you so much for joining me on yet another edition of the Midweek Blitz. It's go. The Midweek Blitz is where we cover everything Kansas City Chiefs. We also touch on some things from around the NFL, and we get you ready for the upcoming game. The upcoming game this week is the Raiders, and it's a 12-point spread to the Chiefs. But we don't take anybody lightly here on Chiefs Chase, and the Chiefs should never take the Raiders lightly. We'll explain why coming up later in the show. We'll also get to our Power 5, the top 5 power rankings for the NFL. Did the Chiefs break their way into it? Big win against the Lions. We'll see later in the show. Also, there's one way to know the Chiefs are back. Just unequivocally, one way, call it a litmus test, where you know, just from watching this, that the Chiefs are back. We'll tell you what that is coming up in just a few minutes. But first, we have to discuss what everybody in the NFL world, everybody in the internet world, everybody wants to discuss, which is two words: zero penalties. The Chiefs had 0 penalties against the Detroit Lions, and the interesting thing about this is that the Chiefs got 0 penalties because they were crisp, because they didn't commit any penalties. And if you want to sit there and say the NFL is rigged, you're going to have to bring me something better than a Travis Kelce block where he had his hands inside the shoulders, which is not holding, learn the rules, or Jared Goff going in motion from the quarterback position and then not getting set, which is, by rule, illegal motion, which is why there was a flag. So if you really think the Chiefs committed a bunch of penalties, please bring them to me, because you haven't yet. All you have is a bunch of engagement farmers manipulating idiots who want to believe the Chiefs have the entire game rigged for them. So they're throwing out these bogus videos that you're going to like and share and all those other things so they can make money. They're lying to you and manipulating your need to believe that your team isn't the problem. It's the Chiefs. They're the problem. That's what you need to believe. Non-Chiefs fans are just chomping at the bit to find any reason why the Chiefs are great other than the fact that the Chiefs are great. But make no mistake, the reality of this world is that the Chiefs are just flat out that dominant of a franchise. They have Patrick Mahomes, the franchise quarterback. They have Andy Reid, the Hall of Fame coach. They have everything you could ever possibly want for a massive run and a massive dynasty. And this wishful thinking every year that the dynasty for the Kansas City Chiefs is over is just a bunch of losers sitting around trying to find a reason why they might not be losers anymore. And you could go to my Instagram pinned reels and see a reel from April of me calling out these people who said the Chiefs dynasty is over and that they've fallen off, asking one question: who's taking it from them? Look around. All of these teams are flawed. All of these teams have problems. The Buffalo Bills have a head coach who would be a college football coordinator if it weren't for Josh Allen. The Bengals gave all of their money to 3 players, and they couldn't figure out why that wouldn't work. Where's this team that's going to come up and actually beat the Chiefs? Right now, the Broncos and the Patriots are the only 2 teams that you could say, all right, I think they got a shot. The Colts, they look good, but how long do you expect Danny Dimes to keep playing like this? If Indiana Jones is for real, okay, then the Colts are in the conversation. But I need to see a little bit more. Let's get into December before we start crowning Danny Dimes and putting the Colts higher than we believe they should be. But the Colts will make an appearance in the power rankings, so stay tuned for that. We got some nice things to say about the Colts. But nobody with a brain actually believes that the Chiefs are getting preferential treatment from the NFL or by the refs. In fact, a lot of them are just pretending to feel that way to engagement farm, lie to you so that you can click and share and they can make money and get engagement on social media by pretending that the Chiefs are getting preferential treatment. And that's just because so many of you are pining for a world where it's not your team's fault that you're losing. No, it's everyone else's fault. But make no mistake, it's your team's fault for being bad. Make better draft picks, get better coaching, make some better free agent signings, and then you can compete with the Kansas City Chiefs. But until then, all of your whining and your excuses and your pining for penalties, it falls on deaf ears.
Lions offside. Mahomes keeps it, scores it, touchdown.
Speaking of which, we have the biggest news for the Chiefs this entire week. And my God, it's cool. It's the biggest, it's huge news in the NFL, but big news in Kansas City for sure. We'll get to that in just a few minutes. But first, you know the Chiefs are back because everybody's blaming the referees again. It's almost like a symphony of music to my ears to get to listen to everybody say that the Chiefs are the NFL darlings and that the referees will do anything they can to get Travis Kelce and Taylor Swift to the Super Bowl and that everything is rigged. It's like a beautiful Mozart symphony to my ears because what it really means is we're back, baby. The Chiefs are back, and there isn't a thing you can do about it. Kansas City, back on the map, back in the conversation. That's all it means, because when the Chiefs were losing, everyone was just like, well, this is what happens when the referees call the game fairly. And then when the Chiefs win, they go, well, that's because the referees called the game unfairly. It's just a bunch of clowns putting on clown makeup and saying a bunch of clown stuff. But that's how we know we're back, baby. That's how we know we're pulled right back in the top contenders in the AFC right now. Arguably, you got to put the Kansas City Chiefs up there. And we'll get deeper into that later in the show. Let's see, what else do we got here? Here's one thing I will say. Take responsibility for your terrible franchise instead of blaming the Kansas City Chiefs and thinking the game is rigged. Take responsibility for your poor coaching hires and your terrible draft picks instead of just trying to blame it on the Chiefs getting preferential treatment when they continue to draft stars and they continue to build and grab big free agents that people casted away. Think about who the top 3 wide receivers are for the Kansas City Chiefs this year. Do you know who they are yet? Do you know just off the top of your head? I do. Hollywood Brown, Tyquan Thornton, Juju Smith-Schuster. 3 people who were castaways in the NFL that the Kansas City Chiefs brought in that are now putting up solid numbers because that's what the Chiefs franchise does. It takes these guys that people sort of just throw by the wayside and it makes them stars. Everyone in New England told me that Tyquan Thornton would have a great camp and then do nothing during the season. Well, Tyquan Thornton is already your number 2 leading wide receiver on the season and has 3 touchdowns. So clearly that was wrong. It's just about coming to Kansas City, getting that coaching, getting with number 15, and suddenly you start playing a lot better football. I just love that the Chiefs live rent-free in everybody's head. I mean, us as Chiefs fans, we set up a nice 2-bedroom apartment with a little breakfast nook and a full kitchen in everybody's cerebral cortex because they cannot stand how good the Kansas City Chiefs are. We live in their heads, and that's why all it takes is a couple of wins, and everybody's talking about the Chiefs. Suddenly, the Chiefs are the talk of the NFL. You love to see it, and that's how you know they're back because everyone hates them. You know, by the way, if your franchise, the opposing franchises, that's the biggest issue here. Is people don't want to look in the mirror. They don't want to see how bad their franchise is. They don't want to focus on the fact that their franchise is run by a bunch of bumbling idiots. And so instead of focusing on that, they become obsessed with hating the Chiefs. We've seen it over the last 5-6 years, and it's going to keep happening because the Chiefs aren't going anywhere. As long as Andy Reid's the head coach, Steve Spagnuolo's the defensive coordinator, Brett Veach is the GM, and Patrick Mahomes is the quarterback, it's 4 pieces. It's a lot of pieces. But as long as those 4 pieces are in place, the Chiefs are set to be a dynasty for a very long time. And it's why I didn't panic at 0-2. I didn't panic at 2-3. At 2-4, I would have hit the panic button. That's why I called the Lions game a must-win game. Because it is. It's a must-win. And the Chiefs got it. 3-3. Now on to this week. The trade deadline's coming up, and there's one player the Chiefs should go get. Only one. We'll tell you who that is coming up in a few minutes. But first, the biggest news of the week for the Kansas City Chiefs. Rashee Rice is back, baby. Rashee Rice back from his suspension, and he's going to hit the ground running. Everyone is expecting him to get a heavy workload right away, and Jeremy Fowler of ESPN reported that he heard that there will be a heavy workload. I don't know if he has sources or if he's just using common sense, but either way, a guy coming back, not from injury, but from suspension, should hit the ground running, and Rashee Rice, after what he's been through, which, again, that's because of his own actions. But after what he's been through, we should expect Rashee Rice to come back and be an absolute juggernaut this season. Hit the ground running, be the number one wide receiver right away. He's going to be that guy. And he's going to get those kind of big plays, those down the sideline monster throws. They are going to come back. Because who do you cover? You now have 3 deep threats in Kansas City with Tyquan Thornton, Xavier Worthy, and Rashee Rice. Then you add in Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster, and Travis Kelce. How do you stop this offense? It's not possible. You're fighting a losing battle. You can only hope to contain them somewhat. And now that Patrick Mahomes has seemingly been allowed to uncork the ball and be a little bit more of a playmaker, the Chiefs' offense is one of the biggest juggernauts you're going to see in the entire NFL, just like we said it would be all offseason. This isn't a surprise to us. This is a surprise to everybody in the NFL, but it's not a surprise to us. Those of us who have been paying attention to the Chiefs, who are ready for this season, saw the wide receiver core and saw the potential of the offensive line. Now that the offensive line is playing the way that they are, protecting Patrick, giving him a clean pocket, now these wide receivers, which the Chiefs have an embarrassment of riches at wide receiver, now they're allowed to get downfield. They're able to have a little more time in their routes. And we're seeing what Patrick Mahomes is with a solid offensive line and a lot of weapons. And that is an MVP. That's who he is. Not to mention he won MVP in 2022 with MVS, Juju Smith-Schuster, Sky Moore, and McCole Hardman as his wide receivers. Granted, at that time, he had the greatest tight end in the world. 2022 Travis Kelce. I know I had people say this week, tell me, Travis Kelce is even better than he was in 2022. No, he wasn't. No, he's not. 2022, 32-year-old Travis Kelce set a record for the most receiving yards for a tight end in the NFL in a season with over 1,400. He was the only real weapon on a team where Patrick Mahomes won the MVP. In reality, that was Travis's MVP season. So he was incredible. He's still really good, and he's still right there. And at 36 years old, to get that kind of production is unbelievable from Travis Kelce. By the way, Rob Gronkowski is also 36 years old, and he hasn't been in the NFL for 5 years. So don't tell me who the best tight end in the world is and the best tight end of all time is, because I know exactly who he is. He wears number 87 for the Kansas City Chiefs. I know that because he's still playing at 36, putting up dynamic performances, being the leading receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs in a massive, dominant win over the Detroit Lions. And Rob Gronkowski's doing a really good podcast that I enjoy listening to with Julian Edelman. It's great and good for him, but he's not the greatest of all time. That's Travis Kelce. A little bit of a tangent there, but I want to hear from Andy Reid. Okay, we talked about Jeremy Fowler of ESPN. He said he had sources telling him that Rashee Rice will get a big workload immediately. Here's Andy Reid via Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City discussing that exact report.
Well, he's going to play. I mean, how many snaps he gets, ask Jeremy, he'll tell you.
I think we could all pretty easily translate that to, Rashee Rice is going to get a big workload against the Raiders. But what a good situation for Rice to come back in. It's a noon game, right? Which the Chiefs haven't had a noon game all season. So it's not a huge stakes game. You also are a 12-point favorite. This is a game where you should have an opportunity to maybe not ease him back in, but throw him into a situation where it's not the most dire thing in the entire world. Right? It's not like it's Sunday night against the Lions. That would have been an insane's a big word, but that would have been an intense return for Rashee Rice. So now, instead of having that intense return, he gets to come back for a game that really more or less can be a game for him to get right. And I don't want to overlook the Raiders, but when you go into a game, if you had to pick what game do you come back after a season-ending injury last season, and then 6-game suspension, so you're not coming back till week 7 of the following season. It wouldn't be a game where it's in prime time against a contender. You would rather have it be at noon against a team like the Raiders. And that's something that I think is a big advantage for Rashee Rice this week. Now, Rashee Rice immediately shoots this entire offense into the stratosphere. The speed, size dynamic that he has, nobody else has. And you can let the haters cry when Rashee Rice runs wild on them. Because what's the excuse going to be once Rashee Rice comes back and this Chiefs offense becomes even more dynamic, even more deadly, even more of a juggernaut and an unstoppable force than it already has been? Are they going to tell us that Rashee Rice is only good because of the referees? My guess is that's going to be the sentiment. Rashee Rice is only good because of the referees, just like the Kansas City Chiefs. That's what we'll hear. It's what we always hear from people. And I don't expect to hear anything different just because you want people to suddenly become rational thinkers, people who can use their eyes instead of letting internet hysteria run their opinions? I have a hard time seeing that being the case. I would bet a lot of money that's not what we're going to see. We're going to see a bunch of people telling us a bunch of excuses about Rashee Rice. I've already got a bunch of people in the comments already talking about, well, he drove fast. Yeah, he did. He got a 6-game suspension. There you go. Move on. That's it. That's what happens when disciplinary measures actually get taken. You can move on. Rashee Rice made a mistake. He made a young, dumb mistake. Listen, I can't be too judgmental to somebody who drives really fast when they're 22 years old and they can afford a really fast car. I could afford a Nissan Altima. It's hard to get up to 100. Have you ever tried to get up to 100 in a Nissan Altima? Great car, by the way. Phenomenal car. But if you try to drive that thing like it's an Aston Martin, you're going to have a bad day. So can I understand why somebody who's 22 years old and can afford a really fast supercar might do something reckless with it? Yeah, I can. And it's a big mistake. And it's one that he's had to pay for with 6 games suspended. That's a lot of money that he's lost, and it's a lot of time off his career that he's lost. And now he's back, and we can move on. There we go. Now here's Patrick Mahomes talking about the return of Rashee Rice for the Kansas City Chiefs.
I mean, he's going to be out there every single play. I mean, that's the mentality that he has. I think it's going to be our job as teammates and coaches to kind of build him back the right way. But it's going to be hard to keep him off the field for sure.
Thank you to Sports Radio 810 WHB in Kansas City for that. They also Xavier Worthy also talked about it. He's fired up. Everybody's fired up to have an Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice on the same field at the same time, which we haven't seen since September of 2024. So it's been 13 months since we've seen Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy on the field at the same time. Now we're going to get that. We're going to get both of these guys together. And Xavier Worthy is a much, much better player than he was in September of 2024 as he's grown into his role as an NFL star. So now with Worthy and Rice as your top 2 wide receivers, and then you still have Hollywood Brown, Tyquan Thornton, Juju Smith-Schuster, Travis Kelce, you now have such a dynamic group of wide receivers that Patrick Mahomes now has time to throw to because he has a solid offensive line. There should be nothing but optimism coming for the Kansas City Chiefs offense because they are, without question, stacked, top to bottom. That's a stacked offense, and I can't wait to see what happens going forward for this Chiefs offense because it should be extremely dynamic. So there's a big situation here. Well, let me tell you what's coming up next. Oh, yeah, we just in a second, we will get to the trade deadline coming up. But first, I want to touch on this. There's a big situation for Kansas City when it comes to Josh Simmons. There is no update. Josh Simmons missed the Lions game because of a family situation, a personal matter. We heard that he was taking care of a family situation in California. We have not heard anything since, and everyone's been very quiet about it, and that's okay. I think at this point, it's kind of like what we said Sunday when it happened. I didn't speculate anything on it. I don't want to talk about it because I don't know. You know what I mean? You can't really have much of an opinion on something that you just don't know. And everybody's craving an update. Everybody's craving something. But at a certain point, you have to just go, look, it's a human situation, clearly, right? Clearly, it's a very human scenario where this is bigger than football. If it wasn't, he'd be there. You know what I mean? If it wasn't, Josh Simmons would be in Kansas City. He'd be with the team. He'd be getting ready for the Raiders. Clearly, it's a big situation. So it's something we kind of have to sit back on and just go, okay, well, we'll see what happens. And that's all we can do, right? Is sit back and go, we'll see what happens. And as far as the situation goes, Jalen Moore, thank goodness he's on this football team. Like for this situation specifically, thank goodness you can have Jalen Moore, who has a 2-year, $30 million contract in Kansas City, and he can step up at left tackle and do a phenomenal job. He was great against Aiden Hutchinson last Sunday night. He was great against Aiden Hutchinson. So that should give a lot of confidence to Chiefs fans that even though Josh Simmons is out for an undetermined amount of time with a personal issue, you can look at Jalen Moore and say, okay, that's why you go get the free agent and pay him a 2-year, $30 million contract, is because when you have a guy that can't go, boom, he can step in, play left tackle, shut down Aiden Hutchinson on Sunday night against the Lions, and be a phenomenal replacement for Josh Simmons for however long he has to be. So while we hope Josh Simmons comes back and that everything at least is some level of okay, clearly it's not because he's been dealing with this family issue now since last weekend. But on the bright side of that, the Chiefs still are able to give Patrick Mahomes a clean pocket and time to throw because Jalen Moore has very obviously been up to the challenge to play left tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. Thank you, Brett Veach. Depth. It's what he's there for. Right? I mean, man, we always talk about, there's a lot of credit to go around for this Chiefs dynasty and this Chiefs franchise. Starts with Clark Hunt, January 2013, flying to Philadelphia and not letting Andy Reid get on the plane to go to his other interviews. That's where it starts with Clark Hunt. But, Brett Veach is very high on that list too because every year, if there's a problem, he fixes it. Chiefs left tackle last year was an atrocious problem. This year, it's fixed. And then some. He got a first-round left tackle who's great, and then he got another guy in free agency who can step in and play really well too. Brett Veach, all over it. Now, on the Chiefs trade deadline, we have a hilarious situation for the Kansas City Chiefs that happened in the Lions game that Mic'd Up got, and you've got to watch this. It is so funny and so good, and it'll make you happy, I promise. That's coming up in just a few minutes. But first, trade deadline coming November 4th, the Kansas City Chiefs. Who will they take? There's a lot of names floating around, but to me, there is only one person that the Kansas City Chiefs should be looking at the trade deadline on November 4th, and that is Breece Hall, running back from the New York Jets. He fits the Chiefs perfectly. The Jets are going to be sellers. They are 0-6. They look like the worst thing to happen to football in years, and the only guy on there that's making anything happen is Breece Hall, as he is averaging like over 4 yards per carry. Breece Hall's averaging over 4 yards per carry on a team that can do absolutely nothing. You've got to get him out of New York. You're going to waste him with the New York Jets. And the Jets aren't going to use him anyway, so they should get some draft capital, get some things for the future, while the Kansas City Chiefs get Breece Hall. It's very simple. I don't know why we got to overthink it. Breece Hall to the Kansas City Chiefs. Make it happen ASAP because he elevates this offense. And I like all the running backs in Kansas City, but right now they are led by Patrick Mahomes. He is the leading rusher for the Kansas City Chiefs. Breece Hall changes that instantly. And when teams eventually figure out how to slow down Mahomes in the passing offense, you're going to need an answer. And Breece Hall is a phenomenal answer. So I see him at the top of the wish list, really for me, the only guy on the wish list for the Kansas City Chiefs to trade for before the deadline. Yeah, people want pass rush. I think the Chiefs pass rush is pretty good. I like Charles Omenihu. I think he gets a lot of flack for no reason from Chiefs fans. Charles Omenihu does a really good job every week, guys. And he had a nice sack last week against the Lions. I mean, he is a solid football player. And then you have George Karlaftis and Chris Jones. And oh, by the way, Omar Norman-Lott, second rounder out of Tennessee. I think second, maybe third. But Omar Norman-Lott out of Tennessee, rookie. He looks really good. He could be a potential interior pass rusher that's going to be very good for the Kansas City Chiefs. So there's a lot to like about this squad. There's a lot to like about every level. But the one area where I'm like, man, if you could fix that one thing, this team would really have almost no problems. And that would be running back. We were hopeful for Isaiah Pacheco coming back from the broken leg, and he still looks serviceable, but he's not a premier running back in this league. And if the Chiefs could add a premier running back in this league, then the Chiefs would have instantly unstoppable status on offense. And Breece Hall gives you that. And considering he's on a team that's looking to deal, I think it just makes perfect sense. Alvin Kamara, we'll mention him because I know that's a big one. Everybody wants Alvin Kamara from the Saints. A couple things. One, Kamara doesn't want to go anywhere. He wants to play in New Orleans. Two, he sells tickets. That's a thing not enough people talk about when it comes to these guys. Do they sell tickets? Breece Hall's not selling tickets for the Jets. Nobody's selling tickets for the Jets. Alvin Kamara is still selling tickets for the Saints. From an economic standpoint, they still need him. And I think they're probably going to hang on to Alvin Kamara. I know a lot of people look at him on their wish lists, not just the Kansas City Chiefs, but a lot of people. I don't think it works. I don't think it works at all. I think Breece Hall is the guy. I think Alvin Kamara stays in New Orleans, and there's really no shot at getting him. And frankly, I could make a great argument that Breece is a better fit for Andy Reid's system.
Here you got Breece Hall in the backfield. Why not use him? Just sling it out there and let his legs do the work. Slips a tackle there from TJ Watt and all the way to
the number one team right now in the NFL power rankings. We will tell you who that is. I mean, how high are the Chiefs? Are they in the top 5? We'll find out in a few minutes. But first, you got to check out this Juju Smith-Schuster, man. We love Juju on this show. We talk about Juju all the time on this show because we love us some Juju Smith-Schuster. You know who else loves Juju Smith-Schuster? Hollywood Brown, because sometimes when you don't know the play, you got to ask Juju.
Caught! Touchdown!
All day, baby! That's all God. Hey, I just got baptized. That's all God. That's all God, bro. That's all God. Call God. Come on, baby.
And we're not going to act like you didn't ask me what the play was. I was out of you. He's like, what I got? I'm like, bro, you got a shallow touchdown. I'm like, oh.
Lights, camera, action. Hollywood Brown, man. He had to ask Juju the play, but you know what? Happy for him getting baptized. He has a different glow to him. And right after the baptism, call God, 2 touchdowns. Great for Hollywood Brown, a phenomenal game for him. And really, Hollywood Brown's been an incredible addition to this Chiefs team. He has been, in every way, what we would have hoped he would be. Because when the Chiefs got Hollywood Brown, people said he's washed, he's not even going to help your team. And what we see is that if you put Hollywood Brown in the right situation, you get him the right pieces around him, you give him a quarterback who can hit him in stride and get him the ball in space, well, then Hollywood Brown's fantastic. I still don't know how the Ravens let him go. I still don't get that. Because he's fantastic in Kansas City. He got injured last year, but ever since coming back from that injury, Hollywood Brown has been a bright spot for the Kansas City Chiefs consistently. And that's incredibly important, consistency. We'll hear Patrick Mahomes talk about that later. But now, speaking of which, there is a ridiculous narrative surrounding Patrick Mahomes. Just an absolutely absurdly ridiculous narrative that I can't believe is even a thing. And we'll get to what that is coming up here in just a few minutes. But first, the NFL Power Rankings. Let's do it. Number 5, the Green Bay Packers. They are one of the more forgotten teams in the NFL right now. People aren't giving them the flowers that they should, but that is a team on the come up with some really good quarterback play, and they have a lot of upside. Number 4, New England Patriots, Mike Vrabel and the boys. Who wants to go to Foxborough and play them right now with Drake May? Nobody. Number 3, the Kansas City Chiefs playing their way into the number 3 spot in the power rankings with a monstrous win over the Lions, and Patrick Mahomes is once again playing at an MVP level. Number 2, Indianapolis Colts. Indiana Jones. I don't necessarily believe in it, but at 5-1, they got to be where they are at number 2. Number 1, Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield. Is there a more fun team to watch in the NFL other than maybe the New York Giants? No. The Bucs are a blast. Baker's making it happen despite a litany of injuries on offense, and they are unquestionably, to me, the number one team in the NFL power rankings for after week 6. And I've been saying it all year. If you look at this power rankings, there's no dominant team in the NFL. Even the Buccaneers have their problems. Like, all these teams have their problems. I mean, you could go back and look at every single team and go, what was their issue? I could go down the list. The Eagles, quarterback play. Jalen Hurts, they have the best roster in the NFL, but if Jalen Hurts can't throw the ball when he has to, then they can't win. The Buffalo Bills, Sean McDermott, that's their problem. And their defense is leaky too. Josh Allen has to do too much for that team. That's their problem. The Colts, few problems. Their defense, I think their defense is shockingly good. Indiana Jones is carrying the offense. Jonathan Taylor's great, but their wide receivers aren't that great. They've been playing above their talent level lately. I think that will come down to earth, and the Colts will come back to being a somewhat pretty good team. Who else do we got? Patriots? Patriots are still figuring it out. They're a good team, but they're not a great team. They have plenty of issues on the defensive side of the ball. Stephon Diggs has helped them a lot offensively. That's been a big improvement for them. Look, but here's the thing. It's only a matter of time until Stephon Diggs blows the whole thing up, right? It's everywhere he's been. It's not like I'm being a hater for saying that. Everywhere Stephon Diggs has been, it starts out awesome. And then he starts to get angry. His ego starts to get in the way, and Stephon Diggs destroys himself. That happens every time. So it will happen in New England as well. The Packers, they struggle to show up in the big moments. I don't think personnel-wise they have any big problems, and I do think that Jordan Love is a really good quarterback. They just tend to shrink in the big moment. So there are consistent problems for every team in the NFL. The Chiefs, what's their problem? Running back. That's why we're talking about getting Breece Hall. The Chiefs have a hole at running back. Also, their defensive line, it's been better. I think their defensive line isn't as bad as people say it is, but it is considered a weakness, especially pass rush. I think they turned a bit of a corner against the Lions, though, because there was a lot of getting in Jared Goff's face in the second half. And Charles Omenihu was part of that. So I want to see more from that Chiefs defensive line. I think they could grow into some things. But, yeah, there's weaknesses there, too. There's weaknesses for everybody. And that's the beauty of the NFL this year. There's so much parity that every single team, you can find a weakness. Not that hard. That's why during this offseason, when people thought the Chiefs were going to fall off, I go, why? Look at the other teams. Who's going to go take the crown from them? Who's the team that can take the Chiefs' crown from the AFC? Name that team. Because it would have to be an out-of-nowhere team. And right now, it looks like Indianapolis Colts, New England Patriots, teams that people didn't expect to succeed, those are the teams that have a shot. Denver Broncos, also a little bit in that conversation. That's what we've been talking about all year. It was going to be a team that people weren't talking about because all the teams people liked, like the Ravens and the Bengals and the Bills, they all had glaring problems that we were talking about all offseason. I don't know what's going on with these guys, these prognosticators on national television. I honestly don't know. Are they not doing their jobs? Are they not watching games? It feels like this whole offseason and at the beginning of this year, it was a lot of prognosticators dusting off their old notes and just going, yeah, Lamar Jackson, yeah, Josh Allen, yeah, Joe Burrow. And they didn't think for 1 second about all these other teams and the fact that all those teams that we just mentioned, the Ravens, the Bengals, and the Bills, they all had glaring problems that were way worse than the Chiefs' problems. I don't know. I don't know what they're missing. I'm just saying, it drives me a little crazy because I'm like, people that I respect in the league suddenly are like, yeah, the Chiefs, we were always on it. Colin Cowherd, I love Colin Cowherd. I love his show. He's suddenly like, the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL. Like 3 weeks ago, it was like the dynasty's over. They're flip-flopping so much that it's really hard to take them seriously. Say what you want about me. I ain't flip-flopping. I am straight-lined what I'm talking about every week. Say it. All right, so we have the funniest sideline moment of the week in the entire NFL, which you have got to see. We'll show you that. Also, it's Raiders week. It's actually a bit more interesting than people think. We'll tell you why coming up in just a few minutes. But first, we have to get to the ridiculous narrative. There's this ridiculous narrative that Patrick Mahomes has had more help on offense than Joe Burrow or Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, which is just ridiculous. If you put James Cook on the Chiefs today, they're an instantly unstoppable offense. The Chiefs are in the market for a running back. Give him James Cook. Give him Derrick Henry. And look what the Chiefs look like. Or you could go to the Cincinnati Bengals. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. I mean, even Tyreek Hill wasn't on Jamar Chase's level because he didn't have the size. So this idea that Patrick Mahomes has had all this help around him is just laughably wrong. They've taken players that other teams didn't want, like Tyquan Thornton, Hollywood Brown, Juju Smith-Schuster. Those are your top 3 leading wide receivers for the Chiefs right now, by the way. Cut from other teams, picked up by the Kansas City Chiefs, and turned into stars. Now, why is that? Why would all 3 of those guys become stars in Kansas City? I don't know. Oh, yeah. Patrick Mahomes. That's how. Because Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback to ever lace up cleats. And everybody who wants to hate on that or say otherwise, argue with a wall. I don't even want to hear it. Pat Mahomes all day, baby. That's really what it is. People will find every excuse as to why their quarterback is better than Patrick Mahomes, but he just doesn't play like it. You know, either it's the referees or he has all this talent around him, which is just an absurd take, both of them. They want to find some way to believe that their quarterback is better than Patrick Mahomes. It just doesn't look like it, and the numbers don't say it, and they don't have any rings, but they really want to believe it. You could see it. You could see it happen in their brains where they're just, they search for whatever tells them what they want to hear. Like, no, the referees are on the Chiefs' side, and Patrick Mahomes has been given every advantage ever, and he for sure isn't carrying the Chiefs. None of that is true. But they fight like hell to believe it because it makes them feel better about themselves. Now, funniest sideline moment of the week coming up. However, we got to get to Raiders week. It's more interesting because I'll say this. Geno Smith is having a disaster season. 7 touchdowns to 10 interceptions. Ashton Genty has over 400 yards rushing, and every single one of them have been after first contact. And Brock Bowers is questionable for the game, and he would be the only viable pass catcher on the entire Raiders team. But all that said, I still worry about this. I always worry about the Raiders. In 2023, I watched a Super Bowl winning Chiefs team go out on Christmas Day and get beat at home by the Raiders. It ruined my Christmas. So I know for a fact that the Raiders, even if they're bad, are a threat to the Kansas City Chiefs because that's how rivalry games work. That's how division games work. You can't get caught up in all the numbers. So I don't care if it's 12-point spread. I don't care if it's 100-point spread. I'm focused on beating the Raiders and only beating the Raiders because that is definitely not a game we should overlook. And speaking of that, Patrick Mahomes was talking to the media, and they talked to him about potentially overlooking this game. Actually, a great question from Seren Petro from Sports Radio 810 WHB that we'll keep in the clip here, asking Mahomes about the potential of overlooking a team like the Raiders.
Dug out of a couple of holes, 0-2, 2-3, get back to 500. Is there, any fear that, you kind of have a letdown, like, okay, we're where we thought we would be, and you need to motivate everybody?
It was the first thing Coach Reed said. It was about showing consistency. That's something that's super important in this league. You can have highs and lows and stuff like that. This is a long NFL season. It's about who can be the most consistent week in and week out, and so that's something that we have to be better at. We've showcased that we can play against anybody, but we've also showcased that we can make mistakes and lose against anybody. And so for us, it's about going out there and playing our best football every single week, getting better at practice today, and continue that throughout the week so to go up against a Raiders team that's hungry and that it's always going to be a tight, contested football game.
Thank you to Sports Radio 810 WHB for that. And here's the thing. That is a thought that's gone through my head this week. What Seren Petro asked about. You got to 3-3. Everybody's talking about you. Mahomes is at the top of the MVP discussion right next to Baker Mayfield. The Chiefs are at everybody's power rankings. Everyone's starting to turn around and say the Chiefs are great. This is the time where letdown games happen. That's an absolute fact of the NFL. Now, I trust in the Kansas City Chiefs to have not as many letdown games as others because they have a great coaching staff and great veteran leadership. So I have a lot of faith in the Kansas City Chiefs to win this game. But it is a good question to ask because how do you stop that from happening? And I think consistency is the key. And it's the first thing Andy Reid talked about. That made me feel good. that Andy Reid knows it too. Like, I figure, he does. He's Andy Reid. He's a Hall of Fame head coach. He's the greatest of all time. He's surpassing Belichick with every week that Belichick gets his head handed to him in college football. We are seeing Andy Reid pass him as the greatest coach of all time. Hey, look at Andy's record without Patrick Mahomes. Andy's record without Patrick Mahomes is fantastic. It's not elite, but it's fantastic. Belichick without Brady, disaster. I think that should tell everybody what that answer is. So the greatest coach of all time, Andy Reid, he sees this as a very big potential letdown game for the Chiefs, and he wanted to make sure that everyone's focused on consistency this week. That should give you all the confidence in the world in the Kansas City Chiefs to come out against the terrible Raiders. I don't know how else to put it. Against the terrible Raiders, it should give you all the confidence that they can come out against those Raiders and do incredibly well. And put it on them. Maybe cover the spread, maybe not. I frankly don't care. Just win. But yeah, Andy Reid being such a great head coach and so smart in these situations, that's got to give you a ton of confidence going forward. Here's Xavier Worthy, as this is a noon game for the Chiefs. Haven't had one yet. I'm going to be doing live on Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok, simultaneous lives. We're going nuts this Saturday or Sunday. Days. We're going nuts this Sunday, and we're having lives across all three platforms, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. We've been doing the TikToks, but now we're going to expand the lives during the game. So please come hang out with me. I'll be tired, I'm sure, because it's a noon kickoff for the first time all year. Here's Xavier Worthy, Chiefs wide receiver, via Sports Radio 810 WHB, talking about that noon kickoff.
Well, I played in the Big 12, so, you know what I'm saying? That's where we shine the brightest.
It's just like the Big 12. And in a lot of ways, you're playing a team that looks similar to a Big 12 football team in the Las Vegas Raiders. I know we don't want to overlook them, but yes, they're bad. They are a bad football team. You can lose to bad football teams. We see it happen all the time. But for the Kansas City Chiefs, the focus is keeping that foot down on the pedal and just driving it forward. And this is a team that looks like they're having a lot of fun. It's a team that looks like they're primed to make a big run because they have the chemistry. And I think the chemistry skyrocketed because of the fight with Brian Branch. Everybody's got to run in. They got to fight for each other. They got to get each other's backs. Look, a fight like that, one that you didn't start, can be great for team chemistry. I mean, that's going to build up your team chemistry better than any exercise a coach could come up with because it's organic and you have to fight for each other. And it creates a tighter bond between everybody because you just had to go through an unexpected battle together that wasn't started by one of your guys. It is a huge boost for the Chiefs, and I think it's going to pay off in dividends for the rest of the season. Now, that's the big takeaway from the fight that we were actually going to get to next, but that's okay. We got one more thing to get to for the Kansas City Chiefs. One player that people aren't talking about that might have a monstrous game against the Raiders. I'll tell you who that is coming up in just a second. But first, the funniest sideline moment of the week came from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers after a huge touchdown catch by Tez Johnson, thrown by one Baker Mayfield.
Mayfield threw you the ball. I said, what did I do? I'm like, bro, I didn't do nothing this season. And they talking about MVP.
I'm going to tell y'all a funny story. This is crazy. When I score and I hit MVP chant, I'm thinking they talking about me. So I asked Shep. I'm like, Shep, they was chanting MVP? Yeah. And he was like, yeah. I was like, I ain't do nothing this year. And then he was like, they talking about Baker, Ted.
Baker Mayfield threw you the ball. Oh, I thought they told me. I was like, I didn't do a damn thing.
And I was like, well, that explains it. But he is the MVP.
I was just happy with you. But you know what? Now I am mad at you. Look though. Saying, what they was chanting, I said, MVP. What have I done? I said, what did I do? I was about to start praising it, man.
You know I'm slow sometimes, bro.
I do dumb stuff all the time, Tez. That's all right, man. I screw up. I do dumb stuff literally all the time. This happened the other day. I poured orange juice into my cereal. Thought it was milk. We've all been there, man. Thought they were chanting for him. You got gassed up. It's what happens when you make a big-time catch like that, man. That Tez Johnson touchdown catch was one of the best catches of the year. It wasn't the top one, but it's top 10 without question. So he starts hearing MVP. He's like, all right. And Shep had to tell him, hey, they're talking about Baker, bro. That's so awesome, man. That's so good. That's so funny. Oh, man. All right, so Chiefs, Raiders, one player that's going to have a big-time game that nobody's talking about, Rashee Smith. This is the game because they're expected to win, because they should have a lead pretty early on. I think Rashee Smith's going to get a significant amount of playing time in this game and get an opportunity to show everybody that he could be a big-time player in this league. And if the Chiefs are shopping for a running back, and I believe they are, they have to know quickly, what do you have in Rashee Smith? Do you need to go get Breece Hall? And I think we'll find out against the Raiders. We will see a lot of number 24. We've seen some of them in spurts this year, but I think we'll see a lot more Rashee Smith against the Raiders so the Chiefs can find out what they have. And I'm excited. I'm excited to see what Rashee does with this opportunity. Does he take the ball and run with it and get some big-time gains that makes us feel a lot better about the Chiefs just going forward with what they have at running back? I don't know, but that'll be my number one thing to watch that people aren't necessarily talking about for this Raiders game. Prediction? Probably like 34-10. I don't overlook it, but if I had to predict it, like just objectively, I'm on the side of, you got to understand, I'm the person that always is like, no, you can't take it for granted. You have to be this, that, and the other thing, right? That's who I am. But if I have to objectively call the game, 34-10, Chiefs. I think it's a blowout. Yeah, objectively. However, subjectively, as a Chiefs fan, you never want to sleep on the Raiders, man. They can come and get you at any time. I have nightmares about the Rich Gannon Raiders. God dang. John Gruden over there with a mean face. Antonio Pierce on Christmas Day. I think about this stuff, man. So subjectively, as a Chiefs fan, yes, I'm worried. I'm always worried. I'm worried all the time. I don't know what to do about it. Every single week, I think something terrible is going to happen. And then when the Chiefs win, I feel a little more relief than I do happiness. That's who it is. That's how this works when you're a long-suffering Chiefs fan. We don't know how to handle success. But objectively, as an objective observer, 34-10. Chiefs win by a mile. This has been Chiefs Chase. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you guys on the lives, man. We have a lot of fun on those. I hope to see you on there, and we'll have a good time. We'll talk about the game, get into a bunch of stuff. We have a blast. So I hope to see you on the lives, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, or TikTok, because I'll be on all three for the Chiefs-Raiders game. We're going to see what happens. It's the first time I've done all three. I've only done TikTok so far. We're going to see what happens. It might be overwhelming, or it might be the greatest thing that's ever happened. We're going to find out. But that is happening on the lives. Of course, I'll keep posting throughout the week on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, TikTok, all of it. Wherever you get your social media, I'll keep posting there. And if you're someone who just likes the long-form show, that's awesome too. And I will see you right after the game, hopefully after a Chiefs win. So enjoy the game. Have an awesome rest of your week. And as always, thank you so much for listening and spending a little bit of time with me because I love doing this. See ya.